The entire ballroom fell silent as the most feared man in Seoul dropped to one knee before her. Diamond earrings that had been whispering cruel jokes just moments before now trembled against their owners' necks. The same woman they had mocked, ridiculed, and dismissed as too fat and too black for their exclusive world now stood like a queen while Min Jae-hyun, the ruthless Korean mafia boss worth billions, bowed his head in reverence. "Forgive me, my love." His voice cracked with emotion that no one in that room had ever heard from the ice-cold crime lord. "I should have protected you from day one. But how did we get here? How did a plus-size African woman from Atlanta end up commanding the respect of Seoul's most dangerous underground king?" The answer lies in a story of betrayal, hidden identities, and a love so powerful it brought an empire to its knees. Let me take you back to where it all began, 3 months earlier, when Amara Williams first stepped off that plane at Incheon Airport, completely unaware that her life was about to change forever. Amara Williams had always been comfortable in her own skin. At 28, she carried her curves with confidence, her dark skin glowing with the kind of natural beauty that couldn't be bought in any store. Standing at 5'6" with full hips, a generous bust, and the most captivating smile in Atlanta, she had learned long ago that her worth wasn't determined by anyone else's opinion. But Seoul was different. From the moment she stepped into the International Marketing Conference at the Grand Hyatt, she felt the stares. Not the appreciative glances she was used to back home, but something colder, more calculating, more cruel. "Oh my God, who invited her?" The whisper came from somewhere behind her as she approached the registration desk. The woman speaking was tall, impossibly thin, with the kind of surgically enhanced perfection that Seoul's elite prized above all else. If you're loving this story so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got dozens of incredible Afro-K love stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Amara pretended not to hear, focusing instead on collecting her conference materials. She was here representing her company's expansion into the Korean market, and she wouldn't let anyone's ignorance derail her mission. "I heard American companies are just hiring anyone these days to fill diversity quotas," another voice chimed in, this one belonging to a man in an expensive suit who clearly thought he was being subtle. That's when she saw him. Min Jae-hyun stood across the ballroom like a force of nature contained in human form. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features that could cut glass and eyes darker than a moonless night. His black hair was perfectly styled, his charcoal suit tailored to perfection, and when he moved, people literally stepped out of his way. Everyone knew who he was, even if they pretended otherwise. The heir to Min Industries, one of Korea's largest conglomerates. What they whispered about in shadowed corners was his other business, the one that made him untouchable even among Seoul's elite. Their eyes met across the room, and Amara felt something electric shoot through her veins. He was staring at her with an intensity that made her breath catch, his gaze traveling over her curves not with the disgust she'd been experiencing all day, but with something that looked suspiciously like hunger. But the moment was shattered when Park So-young appeared at his side. Park So-young was everything Seoul's beauty standards demanded. Stick-thin, pale as porcelain, with legs that went on for days and the kind of delicate features that graced magazine covers. She was also, as Amara would soon discover, the cruelest woman in the entire city. "Jae-hyun oppa." So-young's voice was sweet as poisoned honey as she wrapped herself around his arm. "You're not seriously looking at that creature, are you?" The word hit Amara like a physical blow. Creature. As if her dark skin and full figure made her something less than human. But what happened next shocked everyone in the vicinity. Min Jae-hyun's face went completely cold, and he physically removed So-young's hands from his arm. "Excuse me," he said in English, his accent thick but his words clear as he approached Amara. "I believe we haven't been properly introduced." The ballroom seemed to hold its breath. The most eligible bachelor in Seoul was walking toward the woman they had all been mocking. "I'm Min Jae-hyun," he said, extending his hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "And you are the most beautiful woman in this room." Amara felt her cheeks warm as she accepted his handshake. "Amara Williams. And thank you, though I think your girlfriend might disagree." His laugh was low and dangerous. "I don't have a girlfriend. And even if I did, it wouldn't change the fact that you're absolutely stunning." Behind him, So-young's face had turned an interesting shade of red that clashed terribly with her pink designer dress. Guys, if you're not already subscribed to Afro-K ruthless love stories, what are you waiting for? We've got the most intense interracial romance content on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button now and join our family. Over the next hour, Jae-hyun didn't leave Amara's side. They talked about everything from international business to their favorite movies, and she found herself drawn to his intelligence, his dry sense of humor, and the way he seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts and opinions. But the crowd around them grew increasingly hostile. "I can't believe he's embarrassing himself like this," someone whispered. "She's probably some kind of gold digger. Look at how desperate she is for his attention. Someone should tell him that his reputation will be ruined if he's seen with her." The comments grew bolder and nastier as the evening progressed. When Amara excused herself to use the restroom, she thought she was getting a break from the cruelty. She was wrong. The bathroom was full of Seoul's elite women, and they had been waiting for her. "You know he's just playing with you, right?" So-young's voice echoed off the marble walls as soon as Amara walked in. "Men like Jae-hyun don't date women like you. You're just a novelty. Something exotic to amuse him for an evening." "I don't know what you're talking about," Amara replied calmly, moving toward the sinks to wash her hands. "Oh please," another woman laughed. "You think you actually have a chance with him? Look at yourself. You're fat, you're black, and you're nobody. He's just being polite because you're a foreigner and he doesn't want to cause an international incident." "But don't worry," So-young continued, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "After tonight, he'll forget you exist. Men like him might play with toys like you, but they marry women like us. Women who actually belong in his world." The other women giggled like a pack of hyenas, and Amara felt something cold settle in her stomach. Not because she believed them, but because she could see the genuine hatred in their eyes. "You know what I think?" Amara said quietly, turning to face the group. "I think you're all terrified that someone like me could walk in here and steal your precious prince without even trying. Because deep down, you know that all your surgeries and designer clothes and family connections can't compete with a woman who's actually comfortable in her own skin." The silence that followed was deafening. "How dare you?" So-young started, but Amara was already walking toward the door. "Enjoy your evening, ladies. I know I will." But when she returned to the ballroom, Jae-hyun was nowhere to be found. "He left," said a smug voice behind her. So-young had followed her out of the bathroom, flanked by her mean girl army. "Right after I told him some very interesting things about American women and their expectations." Amara's heart sank, but she kept her expression neutral. "I see. I told you." So-young continued, clearly savoring her victory. "You were never in his league. You were just entertainment." And for the first time all evening, Amara wondered if maybe they were right. But she was about to discover that things in Seoul were not always what they seemed. Comment below and tell us what you think Amara should do next. Should she fight back or walk away? Your engagement helps us bring you more incredible stories like this one. 3 weeks later, Amara had thrown herself into her work, trying to forget about the humiliating evening at the conference. She had successfully negotiated 2 major deals for her company and was actually starting to enjoy living in Seoul, despite the stares and whispers that seemed to follow her everywhere. She was walking home from a late dinner when she noticed the black sedan following her. At first, she thought it was paranoia. Seoul was a safe city, and she was walking through one of the more affluent neighborhoods. But when the car made the same 3 turns she did, her instincts kicked in. She ducked into a narrow alley between 2 buildings, hoping to lose whoever was following her. But instead of the car driving past, she heard car doors slam and footsteps approaching. "There she is," a rough voice said in Korean. "The boss wants to see her." Amara's blood ran cold. She understood enough Korean to know this wasn't good. She turned to run deeper into the alley, but found her path blocked by 2 more men. Large men. Dangerous men. The kind of men who broke bones for a living. "Please," she said in English, then switched to her limited Korean. "I don't want any trouble." "No trouble," one of them replied in broken English, grinning to reveal gold teeth. "Boss just wants to talk." That's when she heard the click of expensive shoes on concrete, and a familiar figure stepped into the dim light cast by the alley's single street lamp. Min Jae-hyun looked completely different than he had at the conference. Gone was the polished businessman. This man wore all black, his face was harder, and there was something in his eyes that spoke of violence and power that came from fear rather than respect. "Hello." Amara, he said, his voice carrying a tone she had never heard from him before. Jaehyun. Her voice came out as barely a whisper. What is this? He stepped closer, and she could see the conflict warring in his dark eyes. This is me apologizing for what happened at the conference, and me making sure it never happens again. I don't understand. You will. He gestured to his men, and they stepped back, giving them space but clearly ready to act if needed. Walk with me. It wasn't really a request. As they walked deeper into the alley, Jaehyun began to speak, and what he told her changed everything she thought she knew about him. My name is Min Jaehyun, and yes, I am the heir to Min Industries. But that's not why people are afraid of me. They're afraid of me because I control half of Seoul's underground. Drug distribution, money laundering, protection services, illegal gambling. If it happens in the shadows of this city, I either run it or I get a cut from it. Amara felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. That night at the conference, he continued, I was there for business. Legitimate business, for once. But then I saw you, and everything changed. Changed how? He stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression intense. I haven't been able to get you out of my head for 3 weeks. I think about your smile, your laugh, the way you held your ground when those vultures were circling. I think about how you felt when we shook hands, and how badly I wanted to protect you from their cruelty. Then why did you leave? The question burst out of her before she could stop it. His face darkened. Because Park So-young told me some very interesting things about what she and her friends had planned for you, if I continued to show you attention. Things that involved making your life in Seoul very difficult. Things that could have gotten you hurt. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of things? The kind of things that happen when people underestimate what wealth and connections can do to destroy someone's life. His voice was cold now, dangerous. False accusations about your work. Problems with your visa. Incidents that would make you leave Korea and never come back. So you abandoned me to protect me? I walked away to plan. Plan what? The smile that spread across his face was absolutely terrifying. My revenge. Before she could process what that meant, he continued walking, and she found herself following him deeper into the maze of Seoul's back alleys. You have to understand something about Korean society, he said as they walked. It's built on hierarchy, on knowing your place and staying in it. People like Park So-young have never had their power challenged because they've never faced consequences for their cruelty. And you're planning to give them consequences? I'm planning to give them a choice. They stopped in front of what looked like an abandoned warehouse. They can apologize to you, publicly and sincerely, or they can discover what happens when you cross someone who owns this city. Share this video with someone who loves intense romance stories. And don't forget to check out our other Afro-K love stories. We've got content that will keep you binge-watching all night. The warehouse was anything but abandoned. Inside, it was filled with the kind of luxury that money could buy when laws were optional. Expensive furniture, imported liquor, and enough technology to run a small country. Men in expensive suits sat around playing cards while others conducted business in hushed tones. This was the headquarters of Seoul's most powerful crime organization, and Min Jae-hyun was clearly its king. Amara, he said, leading her to a private office overlooking the main floor. I need you to understand something. I didn't bring you here to frighten you. I brought you here to offer you a choice. What kind of choice? He poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed her one. You can go back to your hotel tonight and pretend this conversation never happened. Tomorrow, I'll make sure Park So-young and her friends learn some respect, and you can finish your business in Seoul without any more harassment. Then you can go back to Atlanta and live your life. Or you can stay and let me show you what it feels like to be treated like the queen you are. The proposition hung in the air between them like a challenge. And what would that make me? She asked, taking a sip of the whiskey and feeling it burn down her throat. Your mistress? Your exotic plaything? Because that's what they said you saw me as. His face went completely still. Is that what you think? That this is some kind of fetish for me? I don't know what to think. 3 hours ago, I thought you were a businessman. Now I find out you're a crime lord. 20 minutes ago, I thought you'd ghosted me because you were embarrassed to be seen with a fat black woman. Now you're talking about revenge and offering to make me your queen. He set his glass down and moved closer to her, close enough that she could smell his cologne and see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. Let me be very clear about something, Amara Williams. I don't see you as exotic. I don't see you as different. I see you as the most beautiful, intelligent, captivating woman I've ever met in my life. The fact that you're black doesn't make you exotic to me. It makes you you. The fact that you have curves doesn't make you fat. It makes you a goddess." He reached out and touched her face, his fingers tracing the line of her jaw. "I've been with stick-thin Korean women my entire adult life because that's what was expected of me. Women who starved themselves to fit into size 0 dresses and who agreed with everything I said because they were afraid to have their own opinions. Do you know how refreshing it is to meet a woman who takes up space in the world and isn't apologizing for it?" Amara felt her breathing quicken as his thumb traced across her lower lip. "But I won't lie to you about what I am or what being with me would mean. I'm dangerous. My world is dangerous. People who cross me disappear. People who threaten what's mine learn very painful lessons. And what am I to you?" she whispered. "If you'll let me," he said, his voice dropping to a rumble that she felt in her bones. "You're everything." The kiss that followed was nothing like the polite, restrained affection she had experienced with other men. This was fire and possession and a hunger that threatened to consume them both. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "So what's it going to be?" he asked, his forehead resting against hers. "I want to see them apologize," she said, surprising herself with the venom in her voice. "I want to watch Park So-young and her mean girl army grovel." His smile was absolutely wicked. "I was hoping you'd say that. What happened next, guys, is going to blow your minds. Make sure to like this video if you're loving Amara's story, and hit that subscribe button for more content like this." The plan was elegantly simple and absolutely diabolical. Over the next 2 weeks, Jae-hyun systematically dismantled the lives of everyone who had humiliated Amara that night. Not through violence, but through the kind of social and economic pressure that only someone with unlimited resources and complete ruthlessness could apply. Park So-young's father's company suddenly found itself under investigation for tax evasion. Nothing illegal was planted or fabricated. Jae-hyun simply made sure that the authorities looked very carefully at business practices that had been ignored for years. The woman who had made the diversity quota comment found her wealthy husband questioning some very suspicious charges on their shared credit cards. Charges that led to some uncomfortable questions about where she'd been spending her afternoons and with whom. Another member of the Mean Girl crew discovered that her family's country club membership was under review after some anonymous tips about discriminatory behavior. But the coup de grace was So-young herself. It turned out that her father's construction company had been cutting corners on several major projects, including the foundation work for a luxury apartment complex. When the safety inspectors arrived for a routine check, they found violations that would cost millions to fix and could potentially destroy the company's reputation. By the end of the second week, So-young was desperate. That's when she received an invitation to a private dinner at Seoul's most exclusive restaurant. An invitation that came with a very clear message: come alone and come ready to discuss Amara Williams. The restaurant was closed to other patrons that evening. So-young arrived to find a single table set for 3, with Jae-hyun waiting in a perfectly tailored black suit and Amara beside him in a dress that made her look like a queen. Gone was the conference attire that had hidden her curves. This dress, clearly custom-made and probably worth more than most people's cars, hugged every inch of her figure and made her dark skin glow like polished bronze. Her hair was styled in elaborate braids woven with gold thread, and the jewelry at her throat and wrists sparkled with what were clearly real diamonds. She looked like royalty. She looked like she belonged exactly where she was. So-young, by contrast, looked haggard. The stress of watching her family's empire crumble had taken its toll. Her usually perfect makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes, and her designer dress hung loose on her frame, as if she'd lost weight from worry. "So-young," Jae-hyun said pleasantly as she approached the table. "Thank you for joining us. Please sit." It wasn't really a request. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice lacking all of its usual venom. "I want you to look at Amara," he said calmly. "Really look at her." So-young's gaze flickered reluctantly toward Amara, and for the first time, there was something like fear in her eyes. "What do you see?" Jae-hyun continued. I don't understand. 3 weeks ago, you called her a creature. You told her she was fat and worthless and that no Korean man would ever want her. I want to know if you still feel that way." So-young's hands were shaking as she reached for her water glass. It wasn't personal. You just what?" Amara spoke for the first time, her voice calm and controlled. You just thought it was acceptable to attack someone based on their race and their body. I was defending my territory, So Young said weakly. I thought you were trying to steal him. Steal him? Amara laughed, a sound with no humor in it. I thought he was just a businessman being polite to a foreign colleague. You saw something threatening about basic human decency. Jae-hyun leaned back in his chair, watching the exchange with the satisfaction of a predator watching his prey realize they were trapped. Here's what's going to happen, he said conversationally. Tomorrow night, there's a charity gala. All of Seoul's elite will be there, including everyone who was at that conference. You're going to stand up in front of all of them and apologize to Amara. Sincerely and specifically. And if I refuse? His smile was cold as winter. Your father's company will be completely destroyed by the end of the week. The tax investigation will expand. The safety violations will be reported to every news outlet in the country. Your family will lose everything. And everyone will know that it happened because Park So-young thought it was acceptable to racially abuse a foreign businesswoman. So-young went pale. You can't prove I did anything wrong. I don't have to prove anything, he said softly. I just have to make sure the right people believe it. The silence stretched for a long moment before So-young finally spoke. What exactly do you want me to say? Amara leaned forward, and when she spoke, her voice carried an authority that made it clear who was really in control of this conversation. You're going to tell them the truth. That you judged me based on my race and my body because you're a small, insecure woman who thinks cruelty makes her powerful. You're going to apologize for your racism and your body shaming. And you're going to tell them that you've learned that a woman's worth isn't determined by the size of her waist or the color of her skin. And if I do this, Jae-hyun smiled, then your family's problems disappear as quickly as they appeared. So-young looked between them, clearly calculating her options and realizing she didn't have any. Fine, she whispered. I'll do it. But as they left the restaurant that night, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that this was all too easy. Park So-young was not the kind of woman who accepted defeat gracefully. She was right to be suspicious. If you're on the edge of your seat, you need to subscribe right now. We've got so many more twists coming in this story, and our channel is full of incredible Afro-K romance content that will keep you hooked. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. The charity gala was held at the Grand Ballroom of the Lotte Hotel, and it seemed like everyone who mattered in Seoul was there. Amara arrived on Jae-hyun's arm wearing another stunning custom creation, this one a deep emerald green that made her skin glow and her curves look absolutely magnificent. But something felt wrong from the moment they walked in. The crowd was larger than expected, and there were news cameras present that definitely hadn't been there for previous charity events. When Amara mentioned this to Jae-hyun, his expression grew thoughtful. Stay close to me, he murmured in her ear. They made their way through the crowd, accepting congratulations and compliments, until it was time for the speeches. So-young was scheduled to speak about the charity they were supporting, and everyone expected it to be the usual polite, meaningless speech that these events were known for. So-young took the stage looking composed and elegant, but Amara could see the tension in her shoulders. Good evening, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the room. I'm here tonight to talk about something very important, something that our society needs to address. So far, so good. Amara felt Jae-hyun relax slightly beside her. 3 weeks ago, I met an American businesswoman at an industry conference, and I'm ashamed to say that I treated her terribly. A murmur went through the crowd. This wasn't what anyone had expected. I judged her based on her race and her body type. I called her names and made her feel unwelcome in our country. I behaved in a way that was not only cruel, but completely unacceptable. The murmur was getting louder. People were starting to look around, trying to figure out who she was talking about. That woman is here tonight. Amara Williams, would you please stand up? Amara felt every eye in the room turn toward her as she slowly stood up. The crowd was buzzing now, clearly fascinated by this unexpected drama. I want to publicly apologize to Ms. Williams for my racism, my body shaming, and my general cruelty. She deserved better from me and from our society. This was going exactly as planned, but something about So-young's tone was setting off alarm bells in Amara's head. But So-young continued, and Amara's blood went cold. I also want to talk about what happened after that night. Oh no. You see, Ms. Williams didn't just accept my apology and move on. Instead, she decided to use her relationship with Min Jae-hyun to destroy my family's business. The crowd gasped. Cameras swiveled toward Amara and Jae-hyun. That's right, So-young continued, her voice growing stronger. The sweet, innocent victim has been sleeping with one of Seoul's most dangerous criminals. And together, they've been using extortion and intimidation to punish anyone who dared to question their relationship. The room erupted in chaos. Reporters surged forward. Camera flashes went off like fireworks. Jae-hyun was on his feet instantly, his hand on Amara's arm. We're leaving. Now. But So-young wasn't done. Ms. Williams, how does it feel to know that your boyfriend had my family threatened? That he used illegal surveillance and criminal connections to gather information about private citizens? Are you proud of the monster you're sleeping with? The questions hit Amara like physical blows. Around them, the crowd was pressing closer, phones recording, reporters shouting questions. Is it true you're involved with organized crime? Did you use your relationship to seek revenge? Are you concerned about your safety? Jae-hyun was trying to push through the crowd, but it was like swimming upstream. And then, in the chaos, Amara heard something that made her blood freeze. She's nothing but a foreign whore who seduced our men with her exotic body. The racist comment came from somewhere in the crowd, and suddenly Amara understood that this had all been planned. So-young hadn't just decided to expose them tonight. She had coordinated with others to turn Amara's moment of triumph into a public humiliation. And it was working. The crowd was getting uglier by the minute. What had started as curiosity was turning into something much more dangerous. She could hear slurs being shouted, could see the angry faces pressing closer. That's when Jae-hyun snapped. Enough! His voice cut through the chaos like a blade. The sheer force of his fury was so intense that the entire ballroom fell silent. You want to know who I am? He continued, his voice deadly quiet now. Fine. Let me introduce myself properly. Oh God, Amara thought. He's about to do something terrible. My name is Min Jae-hyun. I am the head of the Crimson Tiger organization. I control 40% of Seoul's underground economy. I own half the politicians in this city and 3/4 of the judges. The silence was absolute now. Even the reporters had stopped recording. And this woman, he said, pulling Amara against his side, is under my protection. Which means that anyone who threatens her, anyone who insults her, anyone who so much as looks at her wrong will answer to me personally. The threat hung in the air like smoke. So let me be very clear. Park So-young, you just signed your family's death warrant. Not literally, he added with a smile that was absolutely terrifying. But by tomorrow morning, your father's company will cease to exist. Your mother's social standing will be a memory. Your own reputation will be so thoroughly destroyed that no one in this city will so much as acknowledge your existence. So-young had gone white as paper. As for the rest of you, Jae-hyun continued, his gaze sweeping the crowd. Remember this moment. Remember what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. This woman tried to handle your cruelty with grace and dignity. I won't be so forgiving. And then, in a move that shocked everyone in the room, including Amara, he dropped to one knee right there in front of everyone. Which brings us back to where we started. Like this video if your heart is racing right now. And guys, we've got so many more incredible stories on this channel. Make sure to subscribe and check out our other videos. You won't regret it. Forgive me, my love. His voice cracked with emotion that no one in that room had ever heard from the ice-cold crime lord. I should have protected you from day one. Jae-hyun, Amara whispered. What are you doing? What I should have done 3 weeks ago, he said, pulling a small black box from his jacket pocket. Amara Williams, you walked into my world and changed everything. You made me want to be a better man while accepting the man I actually am. You're strong enough to stand beside me and brave enough to call me on my bullshit. You're brilliant and beautiful, and you make me laugh even when I want to burn the world down. The ballroom was so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. Will you marry me? Amara stared down at him. This dangerous, powerful man kneeling before her in front of Seoul's entire elite, offering her everything he was and everything he had. Are you insane? She asked, but she was smiling as she said it. Probably, he admitted. Is that a yes? She looked around the room at all the faces staring back at her. The same people who had mocked her, dismissed her, called her names. They were all waiting to see what she would do. Yes, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Yes, you crazy, dangerous, wonderful man. I'll marry you. The kiss that followed was witnessed by half of Seoul's elite and broadcast on 3 different news networks. And when they finally broke apart, Jae-hyun stood up and addressed the room one final time. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet the future Mrs. Min. I suggest you start practicing your bows now." But the real shock came 3 months later, at their wedding reception, when Amara discovered that her new husband had been hiding one final secret from her. "There's something I need to tell you," he said as they swayed together on the dance floor of their reception, surrounded by friends and family from both Korea and America. "If you tell me you have another wife hidden somewhere, I'm going to stab you with my bouquet," she said, only half joking. He laughed, the sound rumbling in his chest. "Nothing like that. It's about Park So-young." Amara tensed. So-young had indeed been destroyed socially and financially, just as Jae-hyun had promised. Her family had lost everything, and she had become a pariah in Seoul's elite circles. "What about her?" "She wasn't wrong about one thing," he said softly. "I did have her family investigated. I did use my connections to pressure them, but not for revenge." "Then why?" "Because 3 years ago, Park So-young's father's construction company was responsible for a building collapse that killed 6 people. The investigation was covered up, the families were paid off, and the whole thing was buried." Amara stopped dancing. "What?" "I've been trying to bring them down for years, but I could never get enough evidence. When So-young decided to target you, it gave me the perfect excuse to look deeper into their business practices. So all of this was me using our relationship as cover to finally get justice for 6 innocent people who died because of corruption and greed." She stared at him, processing this revelation. "Are you telling me that you manipulated this entire situation?" "I'm telling you that I fell in love with you completely by accident. But once I did, I realized I could use that love to accomplish something I'd been trying to do for years. And if I had said no? If I had walked away that night in the alley?" His expression grew serious. "Then I would have let you go and spent the rest of my life regretting it. But I would never have forced you to stay." Amara thought about this for a long moment, then smiled. "So what you're telling me is that I accidentally helped you take down a murderous construction company and destroy a racist socialite just by being my fabulous self." "Pretty much. I can live with that." Their kiss was interrupted by applause from their wedding guests. But as they broke apart, Jae-hyun whispered something in her ear that made her laugh out loud. "What did he say?" someone called out. Amara grinned at the crowd, which included several of the women who had tormented her that first night. Women who were now desperate to be in her good graces. "He said that revenge is sweet, but love is sweeter." And as she looked around at her new life, her dangerous, devoted husband, and the empire they would build together, Amara Williams, now Amara Min, realized that sometimes the best revenge is living so well that your enemies can only dream of your happiness. That's our story, guys. If you love this roller coaster of romance, revenge, and redemption, you absolutely have to subscribe to Afro-K Ruthless Love Stories. We've got tons more content featuring incredible love stories between African women and Korean men that will keep you glued to your screen. Hit that like button if this story gave you all the feels, comment below with your favorite moment, and share this video with anyone who loves a good revenge story with a happy ending. And don't forget to check out our other videos. We've got stories that are even more intense than this one, if you can believe it. From secret princes to undercover agents to mysterious billionaires, our channel has everything you need to feed your Afro-K romance addiction. Subscribe now and join our family of growing subscriber count, people who can't get enough of these incredible love stories. Trust me, once you start watching Afro-K Ruthless Love Stories, you'll be completely hooked. See you in the next video.